First contact folly. The scientific vessel Celestial Seeker drifted to a halt at the edge of the uncharted system, its iridescent hull shimmering against the backdrop of distant stars. On the command deck, Chief Researcher Lyric stood with his four slender arms crossed, two holding diagnostic tools while the others adjusted the sensitivity nodes on his elongated skull. Around him, the crew of Milnarians worked with practiced efficiency, their blue-tinged skin catching the soft glow of the ship's bioluminescent displays. Anomaly confirmed, Chief Researcher, announced Science Officer Vela, her voice melodic yet precise. The object appears to be an artificial construct approximately 1.3 kilometers in length. Power signatures are minimal, suggesting dormancy or critical system failure. Larix moved closer to the main observation panel, his large compound eyes narrowing as he studied the dark, angular silhouette floating against the void. Unlike the organic, flowing designs favored by the Milnarian collective, this vessel was rigid, utilitarian, covered in hard angles and protrusions that could only be weapon emplacements. Origin? Larix asked, his antennae twitching with anticipation. Unknown, Chief. Vela responded, her digits dancing across her console. The design matches nothing in our database. The symbols along the hull are unfamiliar. The most prominent reds, USTHUNDRCHILD, in what appears to be an alphanumeric system. Security Officer Dren approached, his exoskeleton clicking softly against the deck plates. More heavily built than the others, his carapace showed the characteristic scaring of a veteran of the Hive Wars. Chief Researcher, I must formally advise against closer investigation, Dren said, his mandibles flexing with concern. This vessel bears all the hallmarks of a military craft. The collective protocols for encountering unknown militarized species require immediate withdrawal and notification of the High Council. The bridge fell silent as the crew awaited Lyric's response. The Chief Researcher was known throughout the collective for his brilliant discoveries and his occasional disregard for cautionary protocols. Your concern is noted, Security Officer, Lyric said finally, his voice carrying the harmonic undertones of excitement, poorly masked by professional restraint. But consider the opportunity before us. The collective hasn't encountered a new spacefaring species in over 300 cycles. This could be the discovery of our generation. He gestured toward the view screen, where the mysterious vessel hung motionless. Furthermore, the ship appears abandoned or critically damaged. Our ethical directives compel us to investigate and offer assistance if life forms remain aboard. With respect, Chief Researcher, Dren persisted, we should at minimum deploy reconnaissance drones before considering aborting action. Larix waved a dismissive hand. Drones may be perceived as aggressive surveillance. A small team with clear scientific intent is less threatening. He turned to address the bridge crew. Prepare a boarding shuttle. Standard first contact protocols. I will lead the expedition myself. 20 minutes later, the sleek boarding craft detached from the Celestial Seeker, its propulsion system barely disturbing the vacuum as it approached the alien vessel. As they drew closer, the true scale of the ship became apparent. A behemoth of metal and composite materials, battle-scarred yet imposing even in its dormant state. Those are definitely weapon systems, Dren observed grimly, pointing to various protrusions along the hull. Multiple types, likely designed for different combat scenarios. This species built for war or survival in a hostile sector, countered Vela, adjusting her scanning equipment. Many peaceful species develop defensive capabilities out of necessity. Engineer Torque, his six-fingered hands moving deftly over the shuttle's controls, identified what appeared to be an entry point, a massive bay with doors partially open. Possible docking area located, he announced. Atmospheric readings indicate the chamber is pressurized. Composition is oxygen-nitrogen with trace elements, suitable for our respiration with minor adjustments. Take us in, Larix ordered, his excitement now unmistakable. The shuttle glided through the massive doorway, entering a cavernous hangar that could have housed dozens of vessels its size. Emergency lighting cast a dim red glow throughout the space, revealing smaller craft of various designs, all bearing the same angular, aggressive aesthetic as their mothership. "These are attack vessels," Dren said, examining the smaller ships through the viewport. "Short-range fighters, by the look of them." Lurix ignored the security officer's growing unease, focused instead on the scientific treasure trove before them. Once the shuttle settled onto the deck with a soft thud, the boarding team prepared to disembark. Lurix had selected Vela for her xenobiology expertise, Torque for engineering, Dren for security, and 2 additional security personnel. As the boarding ramp extended to touch the deck of the U.S. Thunderchild, none of them noticed the tiny cameras tracking their movements from shadowed corners. None of them detected the silent alarms that had triggered the moment they crossed the ship's defensive perimeter. None of them realized that deep within the supposedly dormant vessel, human crew members were quietly moving into position, observing the alien visitors with intense curiosity, and their fingers resting lightly on weapon triggers. The Melnarian team moved cautiously through the corridors of the human warship, the soft clicking of their limbs against metal decking echoing in the eerie silence. Emergency lighting cast long crimson shadows that seemed to pulse with the steady rhythm of some massive hidden heart. "Atmosphere is breathable but heavy," Vela announced, checking her instruments. "Gravity is approximately 1.2 times our standard. This species evolved on a high-gravity world." Torque paused to examine an exposed panel in the wall, his specialized appendages probing the unfamiliar technology with professional curiosity. Fascinating engineering, primitive in some respects, yet incredibly sophisticated in others. "Look at these redundancy systems, triple backups for critical functions." "Military thinking," Dren muttered. "Always have contingencies for your contingencies." The corridor opened into a wider section where pipes and conduits ran along the ceiling, disappearing into shadowed recesses. Doors lined both sides, all sealed. "These markings," Vela said, pointing to symbols that appeared at regular intervals. "They repeat a pattern. Directional indicators, perhaps." After 20 minutes of careful exploration, they located what appeared to be the command center, a compact bridge designed for functionality rather than comfort. Unlike the open, communal command decks of collective vessels, this room was compartmentalized, with workstations arranged in tight clusters around a central elevated platform containing a single chair. "This appears to be their command position," Lurix observed, examining the chair. "Notice how it provides sightlines to all stations. Hierarchical command structure, most likely." Torque moved to what seemed to be an engineering console, his fingers hovering above unfamiliar controls. "Power systems are in standby mode, but fully functional. This ship isn't disabled. It's simply waiting." "For what?" Vela asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dren had found another station and was studying the layout with growing concern. "These defensive positions are troubling. Notice how the corridors we traveled are designed to funnel boarding parties to specific areas." He pointed to a schematic on the screen. "See these choke points? These hidden alcoves, perfect for ambush positions." An uncomfortable silence fell over the group as the implications sank in. "You think they expected to be boarded?" Lurix asked, his scientific enthusiasm giving way to the first stirrings of unease. "They designed for it," Dren confirmed grimly. "This species builds with conflict in mind." Vela had been working at another terminal, attempting to access the ship's database. After several attempts, the screen flickered to life, displaying streams of alien text. "My translation matrix is struggling," she said, "but I'm getting basic information. They call themselves humans. They evolved on a planet called Earth high gravity, by our standards, oxygen-rich atmosphere." Her voice grew more troubled as she continued reading. "They have recorded history of warfare dating back thousands of years. Nearly continuous conflict. A war species," Dren said with finality. Lurix activated his communicator. Celestial Seeker, this is the boarding party. We've made several significant discoveries. The vessel belongs to a species called humans. They appear to be militaristic in nature, with technology that, while different from ours, is highly advanced in certain areas. No sign of the crew, though life support systems are functioning normally. As the chief researcher delivered his report, Dren continued examining the bridge's defensive systems. Something felt wrong, deeply wrong, about the entire situation. Chief researcher, he interrupted, his tone urgent, we should withdraw immediately. This setup feels deliberately arranged. Explain, Lyrics demanded. The ship's defensive positions, the corridor layouts, they're all tactical. And there's something else. He pointed to tiny lenses embedded in the ceiling corners. I believe we're being observed. Before Lyrics could respond, the lighting throughout the ship suddenly shifted from emergency red to bright white, illuminating the bridge in harsh clarity. The aliens froze, blinking in the sudden brightness. A new voice spoke from all around them, deep, calm, and undeniably sentient. Attention, unauthorized boarding party. You have entered a United Earth Systems vessel without permission. Screens around the bridge activated simultaneously, showing various areas of the ship. To their horror, the Melnarians saw armed figures in heavy armor moving swiftly through the corridors they had just traveled, each carrying weapons of unfamiliar design. Hidden compartments in the walls slid open with mechanical precision, revealing weapon systems that immediately oriented toward the alien visitors. Dren reached for his defensive shield generator, but stopped when he heard the distinctive sound of a weapon powering up behind him. The wall section behind Lyrics' position had slid aside, revealing a concealed compartment. A human stood there, encased in armor that enhanced its already sturdy frame. The being's face was partially visible behind a transparent helmet section, a flat, hairless face with piercing eyes and a rigid expression that betrayed no emotion. I am Captain Hayes of the United Earth Systems ship Thunderchild, the human said, voice calm but authoritative. You will remain where you are until our security team arrives. More hidden doors opened around the bridge, revealing additional humans in combat positions. They had been there all along, watching, waiting, evaluating. On the Celestial Seeker, the bridge crew watched in growing horror as the supposedly dormant human vessel blazed to life. Power signatures spiked off their sensors as weapon systems activated all along the massive hull. A communication request flashed on the main screen. After a moment's hesitation, Acting Commander Neri accepted it. The face that appeared was unmistakably of the same species they had discovered, human. This one with facial hair and intense eyes that seemed to penetrate the screen. This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Systems warship Thunderchild, the human said, somehow knowing whom to address. Your boarding party is in our custody. The trap had been sprung. What had seemed like a scientific opportunity was quickly revealing itself as the biggest mistake the Melnarian collective had ever made. The negotiation game. The bridge of the human warship transformed from a seemingly abandoned command center into a hive of disciplined activity. Within seconds, the Melnarian boarding party found themselves surrounded by armored human soldiers, each holding weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. Though the weapons weren't fired, their aim never wavered. Do not move, commanded a human officer, her voice calm but brooking no argument. Place your devices on the floor slowly. Security Officer Dren assessed their situation with professional detachment. The humans had positioned themselves with tactical precision. Each member of the boarding party was covered by at least 2 weapons, with no clear escape route. We came in peace, Chief Researcher Lyrics said carefully, lowering his scanner to the floor as instructed. We believed your vessel was abandoned or in distress. Captain Hayes stepped forward, her powered armor making soft mechanical sounds as she moved. Unlike the others, she retracted her helmet, revealing a face with sharp features and penetrating eyes. A curious definition of peace that involves bypassing security systems and attempting to access restricted databases, she said, her tone conversational despite the tension. Most species understand that boarding a military vessel without permission constitutes an act of aggression. Meanwhile, aboard the Celestial Seeker, Acting Commander Neri stared in disbelief at the main view screen. The supposedly dormant human warship had transformed. Lights blazed along its massive hull, weapon ports that had been invisible to their scans were now open, and massive engines flared to life, holding the vessel in perfect tactical position. All systems active, the sensor officer reported, his voice strained. Their power output exceeds our theoretical maximums. Weapons systems locked onto our position. Admiral Chen's face remained on the main screen, his expression unreadable. You have committed an act of war by boarding a sovereign vessel without permission or communication, he stated flatly. Neri rose from her command chair, struggling to maintain composure. Admiral, there has been a misunderstanding. We detected minimal power signatures from your vessel. Our protocols require us to investigate and offer assistance to ships potentially in distress. Your protocols also include scanning our defensive systems and attempting to access classified information. Chen asked, raising an eyebrow. Our boarding party is scientific in nature, Neri insisted. Their actions were motivated by curiosity and concern, not hostility. The Admiral's expression softened slightly, becoming almost thoughtful. Curiosity is admirable when properly channeled, Commander. Less so when it involves unauthorized access to military assets. Back on the Thunderchild, Captain Hayes had ordered the Melnarian visitors moved to a secure conference room. Though technically prisoners, they were treated with professional courtesy. No restraints, water provided that matched their physiological needs, and comfortable seating arranged to accommodate their non-human anatomy. I don't understand, Lyric said once they were alone. How could they hide from our scans? The power requirements for a vessel this size. Engineer Torque shook his head in frustration. Their masking technology is beyond anything we've encountered. They weren't disabled. They were deliberately presenting as dormant. But why? Vela asked, her translator nodes flickering with distress. Why create such an elaborate deception? To see what we would do, Dren answered grimly. They were testing us. And we failed. The doors slid open, and Captain Hayes entered along with two other humans, one in a different uniform style with insignia suggesting higher rank, the other in what appeared to be scientific rather than military attire. I am Admiral Reyes, the higher-ranking human said without preamble. This is Dr. Nakamura, our xenobiologist. I believe we have much to discuss. Are we prisoners of war? Lyrics asked directly. Admiral Reyes took a seat across from the Melnarians. That depends on several factors. Chief Researcher Lyrics. Yes, we know who you are. We've been studying your collective for some time. This revelation sent a shock through the alien visitors. Vela's translator nodes flickered rapidly in alarm. Studying us? How? She demanded. Dr. Nakamura spoke for the first time, her voice softer than her military colleagues. Your species has encountered 17 pre-spaceflight civilizations in the past century. In each case, your protocol was identical. Observation, limited contact, then guidance into your collective. We observed your methods during your interaction with the Verini system. The implications sank in slowly. The Verini system was at the edge of collective space, a pre-industrial civilization that had been brought into first contact protocols only 30 cycles ago. You were there? Lyrics asked incredulously, but we detected no other advanced technology in the system. As you failed to detect our capabilities here, Admiral Rice pointed out, humanity has developed along different technological paths than your collective. Our strengths lie in different areas. Meanwhile, in orbit around the Thunderchild, the Celestial Seeker remained in communication with Admiral Chen. The conversation had taken an unexpected turn. Your collective's approach to emerging species is fascinating, Chen was saying, his initial hostility replaced by what seemed like genuine academic interest. The guided development model has certain merits, though we find it somewhat paternalistic. Neri had gradually realized that despite the potential for disaster, the humans were engaging in dialogue rather than aggression. It ensures stable integration into the galactic community, she explained, prevents technological misuse and cultural shock. At the cost of self-determination, Chen countered. But that philosophical debate can wait. The immediate question is how we proceed from here. On the Thunderchild, Admiral Rice was explaining humanity's perspective to the boarding party. Humanity evolved in isolation, surrounded by threats both natural and self-imposed, she said. Our history is indeed marked by conflict, as your databases discovered. But conflict breeds innovation and resilience. We fought our way to unity, then to the stars. And now, Lyrix asked. Now we explore, we learn, we prepare, Captain Hayes interjected. This encounter was deliberate, Chief Researcher. We wanted to understand how your collective would approach a species of comparable technological development. By pretending to be disabled, Tren asked, professional indignation evident in his posture. By presenting a controlled scenario, Rice corrected. Your actions revealed much about your protocols and intentions. Dr. Nakamura activated a holographic display showing the Melnarian home system and surrounding collective space. Your expansion has been impressive, methodical, strategic. You integrate species seamlessly into your collective governance structure. You make it sound sinister, Vela objected. We offer protection, knowledge, advancement. On your terms, Hayes pointed out. With your values prioritized. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication. Admiral Rice received it privately through her neural interface, her expression shifting subtly. It seems your vessel is attempting something unwise, she said, turning back to the Melnarians. Aboard the Celestial Seeker, Neri had made a desperate decision. While maintaining dialogue with Admiral Chen, she had ordered her engineering team to attempt a power surge through their gravitational drive, a maneuver that might allow them to create a temporary displacement field and escape to faster-than-light travel. Admiral Chen, Neri said, maintaining a calm facade, we respect your position and wish to continue this discussion through proper diplomatic channels. Perhaps we could arrange a formal meeting on neutral territory. Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. An excellent suggestion, Commander. But I'm curious why your engineering section is rerouting power to your drive systems even as we speak. Before Neri could respond, the Thunderchild emitted a targeted electromagnetic pulse that cascaded through the Celestial Seeker systems, disrupting the power buildup without damaging critical life support functions. A remarkable feat of precision, the Melnarian engineering officer whispered, staring at his readouts in disbelief. They disabled exactly what they intended to. Nothing more. Chen's expression remained unchanged. We appreciate genuine dialogue, Commander. Subterfuge less so. Shall we begin again? Back in the conference room, the Melnarian boarding party had just been informed of their ship's failed escape attempt. Your commander's actions were predictable, Admiral Rice said, though unnecessary. We have no intention of harming your vessel or crew. Then what do you want? Lyrix asked, his scientific curiosity reasserting itself despite the circumstances. Understanding, Dr. Nakamura answered simply, and perhaps a different kind of relationship than the one your collective typically establishes. The Admiral nodded. Humanity has no interest in joining your collective under standard protocols. We value our autonomy too highly. However, we recognize the benefits of galactic cooperation and information exchange. You orchestrated this entire encounter to establish diplomatic relations, Dren asked incredulously. We orchestrated this encounter to understand who we're dealing with, Captain Hayes corrected. Diplomacy follows understanding, not precedes it. For the next several hours, both ships remained in position as discussions continued. The humans gradually revealed more about their civilization, their rapid technological development, their expansion through 12 star systems, their encounters with non-sentient alien life that had prepared them for eventual first contact. The Melnarians, in turn, shared information about the collective structure and the benefits it offered member species. A tentative respect began to form between the two groups, born of mutual recognition of the other's capabilities and perspectives. Finally, Admiral Reyes made her proposal. "We offer an alliance between equals," she said to Lyrics and his team. "Not membership in your collective, but a bilateral relationship with defined parameters for cooperation, trade, and mutual defense." The Collective Council would need to approve such an arrangement, Lyrics said carefully. "It's unprecedented." So was this encounter, Hayes pointed out. Perhaps unprecedented circumstances call for unprecedented solutions. In orbit, Admiral Chen was making a similar proposal to Commander Neary. "We'll release your boarding party unharmed and escort your vessel to your border. In exchange, we ask that you carry our diplomatic proposal to your council, along with comprehensive data about our civilization." Neary had recovered her composure during their extended conversation, coming to appreciate the human admiral's straightforward approach. "And if the council rejects your proposal, then we'll know more about each other than we did before," Chen replied with a slight smile. "Knowledge is valuable in itself, wouldn't you agree?" 12 hours after the initial boarding, the Melnarian team was returned to their shuttle. As they prepared to depart, Captain Hayes approached Chief Researcher Lyrics with a small data module. "A gift," she said, offering the device. "Cultural and scientific data your collective might find interesting. Nothing classified, but enough to demonstrate what we could offer as allies." Lyrics accepted it with a gesture of gratitude. "I misjudged your species, Captain. I saw your military design and assumed aggression was your primary trait. A reasonable assumption based on the evidence available," Hayes acknowledged. "But remember, Chief Researcher, that strong defenses don't necessarily indicate aggressive intent. Sometimes they simply reflect a realistic understanding of a dangerous universe." As the Melnarian shuttle departed the Thunderchild's hangar bay, Dren turned to Lyrics. "Do you think the Council will accept their proposal?" Lyrics considered the question carefully. "I'm not sure. It challenges many of our fundamental assumptions about how interspecies relations should function. But there's one thing I am certain of." "What's that?" Vela asked. "The universe just became considerably more interesting," Lyrics replied, his scientific curiosity fully rekindled, "and considerably more complex." The shuttle docked with the Celestial Seeker, which was already preparing for departure under the watchful escort of the human warship. As they set course for collective space, the crew couldn't help but feel they had narrowly avoided disaster, and perhaps stumbled into opportunity. What had begun as a routine scientific investigation had become their civilization's most significant first contact in centuries. They had boarded a human warship out of curiosity and faced potential catastrophe. Instead, they were returning with the prospect of a new kind of interstellar relationship, one between equals, built on mutual respect rather than assimilation. As the Celestial Seeker accelerated away from the U.S. Thunderchild, Lyrics found himself reflecting on the captain's parting words. The humans' militaristic design had indeed led him to false assumptions. They were prepared for conflict, yes, but that preparation had allowed them to approach this encounter from a position of confidence rather than fear. Perhaps there was a lesson in that for the collective, which had grown comfortable in its technological superiority and established protocols. The humans had demonstrated that there were different paths to the stars, different ways of thinking, different approaches to the great questions of galactic civilization. And that, after all, was why Lyrics had become an explorer in the first place, not to confirm what the collective already knew, but to discover what it had yet to learn.